What's going on, Professor Dixon? I feel like
No, it's not to him. It's to the whole class too.
it's a whole class.
Yeah,
All right.
you're speaking to an audience.
All right. Hello, whole class, and Professor Dixon, because you have to see this to grade this. Uh, I'm not new to this, as Professor Dixon might remember from my uh, blossoming career last semester with his YouTube videos. I was pretty good. No subscriber, by the way. It's whatever. But what we did in class was we went over the syllabus, and one thing I'm very interested in is there's no midterm exam or paper like I had dealt with last semester. There's a midterm debate. Uh, I'm very interested in that. Me and my roommate who are in the class together, I feel like we were gonna have a fun time with that. But the notes with the book, Legal Reasoning, written by Gardner, who both of us had last semester. It just he went actually last semester in Law 101. He went over syllogisms and how to craft a legal argument, the basics around it, and it's very interesting to see it more fleshed out. Some of it seems like self-explanatory, like like the minor and the major premise have to like coincide, like that's kind of makes sense, and the conclusion has to match both the minor and the major. That was really what the chapters were going over. That does make a lot of sense. Uh, but to I'm interested to see where this year will go. Thankfully, no final exam. That's taking a weight off my chest, but it's helping me see, because throughout my law classes so far, I've been learning about rule of the law, and like just laws on with the Constitution, and now intellectual property and blah, 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 but I haven't really learned about with legal reasoning. This seems more in the trial sense, talk because the book already brought up how U.S. courts are an adversarial system. We see that in a bunch of movies and TV show. Like it's one party against the other. But um, this is good to know. This is like the basics of how they craft their argument. Now, I'd have to watch, these movies again, these shows again, maybe, put on some Law and Order, turn on A Few Good Men, and see like if they're really using those syllogisms. I like to I'd like to see it in action to know really how they work. I mean, like, it's a pretty simple concept. You're just making a logical argument, which the book says that it doesn't even have to be real, right? With one example, it was like, all celestial bodies are made of cheese or something, and it's like, oh, the moon's a celestial body, so the moon's made of cheese, which isn't real. Well, it could be, but uh, I like learning about these very basically with the syllogisms, and if we're already learning about it's not grassroots, super basic legal argument. I'm excited to see where the rest of this semester will go to, because I want to see more how legal arguments are crafted. I'm very interested. In my last class with Professor Dixon for these YouTube videos, I wouldn't have to. It wasn't summarized in class. I went down to the Buffalo City Court, and I went and observed court cases. I never made it there for a court case, which was weird. I thought there'd be at least one going on, but I was there for like bail hearings, like pretrial hearings, like when the judge or the court attorney, who was like a mini judge, would set aside the date for the trial, and when like the prosecution would set bail. And I saw some crazy ones, like some kid who goes here was getting bail, had his bail set at like $100,000. I was like, man, he did that. But he definitely did that. But No, I'm just because I didn't really see the legal arguments there. I want to understand more about how it's crafted, how it's said, and even if like how do they counter it? How do you respond to that? And I'm just very excited to see where this semester will go with syllogisms and legal arguments.